What is philosophy? Philosophy can be described as the rational, abstract, and methodical consideration of reality. Philosophy has been a central fixture in the history of civilization, from ancient Greece to modern day. In the centuries that have passed, notable philosophers both young and old have produced original thoughts and made contributions to all industries and disciplines including politics, mathematics, literature, art, and science. Below are some of the most influential philosophers, their schools of thought, and what we can learn from their forward-thinking approach. Number 1. Socrates. Socrates was a Greek philosopher and is considered the primary source of Western thought. Because he could neither read nor write, much of what we know of his life was recorded by his students Plato and Xenophon. His Socratic method laid the groundwork for Western systems of logic and philosophy, delivering a belief that through the act of questioning, the mind can manage to find truth. Some of famous quotes of Socrates: "The secret of happiness, you see, is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. Falling down is not a failure. Failure comes when you stay where you have fallen." True wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us. 2. Greek philosopher Plato was a student of Socrates and later became a teacher of Aristotle. He was a priori, a rational philosopher who sought knowledge logically rather than from the senses. He went on to establish the Academy in Athens, one of the first institutions of higher learning in the Western world. Guiding principle: Plato's logic explored justice, beauty, and equality, and contained discussions in aesthetics, politics, language, and cosmology, the science of the origin and development of the universe. Considered one of the greatest thinkers in politics, psychology, and ethics, Aristotle learned from Plato after enrolling in his academy at age 17. Later, he went on to tutor Alexander the Great. Aristotle focused on a posteriori rounds of knowledge, a term popularized by Immanuel Kant, where conclusions are formed based on actual observation and data. Guiding principle: Aristotle's intellectual knowledge spanned every known field of science and arts, prompting him to idealize the Aristotelian syllogistic, a belief that logical argument applies deductive reasoning to arrive at a conclusion based on two or more propositions assumed to be true. Be a free thinker and don't accept everything you hear as truth. Be critical and evaluate what you believe in. Excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Criticism is something we can avoid easily by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. Aristotle. John Locke was an English philosopher and Enlightenment thinker who came to be known as the father of classical liberalism. Throughout his studies, he made valuable contributions to modern theories of a limited, liberal government. His most notable work, Essay Concerning a Human Understanding, offers an analysis of the human mind and its acquisition of knowledge. Guiding principle: Locke's thinking emphasized the notion that we should acquire ideas through experience of the world. His logic later influenced philosophers like Voltaire and Rousseau. No man's knowledge can go beyond his experience. The end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. For in all the states of created beings, capable of laws, where there is no law there is no freedom. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher whose thinking revolved around metaphysics, a philosophical study that examines the fundamental nature of reality. His best-known work, Critique of Pure Reason, determines the limits and scope of metaphysics, combining reason with experience that moves beyond that of traditional philosophy. Guiding principle: Kant was one of the foremost thinkers of the Enlightenment, and a large part of his work addresses the question, what can we know? Kant argued that we can only have knowledge of things that are possible to experience. Further, he believes that we can know the natural, observable world, but we cannot have answers to many of the deepest questions of metaphysics. We are not rich by what we possess but by what we can do without. He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person, or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. Confucius, also referred to as Kangqi or Confucius, was a Chinese philosopher, teacher, and political figure largely considered the father of the Eastern style of thought. His teachings focused on creating ethical social relationships, setting educational standards, and promoting justice and honesty. Guiding principle. His social philosophy was based on the principle of Ren, loving others, and he believed this could be achieved using the Golden Rule. What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others. A man is great not because he hasn't failed, a man is great because failure hasn't stopped him. Everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. They must often change who would be constant in happiness or wisdom. What the superior man seeks is, in others. A man is great not because he hasn't failed, a man is great because failure hasn't stopped him. It does not matter how slowly you go so long as you do not stop. When anger rises, think of the consequences. When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals. Adjust the action steps. Faced with what is right, to leave it undone shows a lack of courage. To be able under all circumstances, to practice 5 things constitutes perfect virtue. These 5 things are gravity, generosity of soul, sincerity, earnestness, and kindness. To see what is right, and not to do it, is one of courage or of principle. Dante was a medieval Italian poet and moral philosopher regarded as the father of the modern Italian language. He is best remembered for his poetic trilogy, The Divine Comedy, which comprised of sections that represented 3 tiers of the Christian afterlife: purgatory, heaven, and hell. The poem features an array of learning, an analysis of contemporary problems, and creativity in language and imagery. Guiding principle. Dante's important theoretical works included discussions of rhetoric surrounding moral philosophy and political thought. There is a gentle thought that often springs to life in me, because it speaks of you. In the middle of the journey of our life I came to myself within a dark wood where the straight way was lost. The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis. Dante Alighieri. Please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Stay tuned.